You're listening to Pro Booth Talk, education and insights for photo booth company owners.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Jason. I've got Lap, as always, with me. How are you doing, Lap?
Hi, Jason. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
So we wanted to talk about, a few weeks ago, it came up, Lap mentioned that someone had asked her about buying their own booth, or I can't remember what was it. They were not going to book because they were considering getting their own booth. There's some scenario that one of your clients was just thinking about getting their own booth, and you suggested that we should do a show on that. And I think that's a good topic, so we're going to tackle that.
Yeah, it's happening more frequently. I think a lot of clients are wanting to move that direction where they're wanting to eliminate us and just, handle everything in-house. So it's not just one client. I've been seeing a rise in clients reaching out asking for us to help them source a booth for them to have in-house.
So why do you think there's a rise in that? Do you think it's the low price point? I kind of feel like it's probably a lot of underqualified booth attendants trying to move into the corporate space too early and showing them hey, anyone can do this really easily. Just if you have an iPad, you can slap it in here and put on a event. Or maybe it's just low cost of entry.
It's probably a combination of things, honestly, Jason. I know there's a few people who use SnapPic without, what is it called? Gray labeling, white labeling. So it's out in the open what they're using. A lot of boothers are making it really easy for clients to go and figure this stuff out themselves. It's probably because there's boothers that are new that make it look like it's easy with the iPad booth, but I think it's also, I feel like corporate is trying to scale back on their budgets too. So it's probably a combination of things. I feel maybe people who are new make it look easy, but then also people who are seasoned make it look easy too. Because I have clients that book us for premium. I had one client that books us for glam booth, and she thought we make it look so easy that she thought she could just buy a booth and just run it.
And especially with the way filters and things are going, a lot of times they just may think it's a filter. But I think with some of the unprepared boothers, I don't know if they're making it look easy as much as maybe it's making it look easier for them to just get away from having a photo booth company. Because if you're unseasoned, if you don't know what you're doing and you're going in there and relying on your client for a lot of help, or you're having a lot of tech issues, then it really, they want things to be very streamlined. So maybe that resistance or that friction may contribute to it as well. But regardless, we did an event. So we got hired to do, it was, I think, 3 different activations at a trade show, and we got hired by the trade show proper, not one of the vendors there. And when we were setting up, 2 different vendors during our setup came up to us and mentioned, hey, I've got that same booth and we're going to be having it over here. So 2 of the companies there had actually purchased their own, specifically these were pearls from Pickbox Company, and they were going to have them there. And it was kind of enlightening for us. At first we were like, wow, I'm glad the client's not here, hearing that they could just buy their own booth and eliminate us, because each one of these booths, they were paying us way more than what they could have bought a pearl for. But then during the show, we could see very clearly that, they're just using the very, very basics. They're just taking a photo and collecting the email information, and it wasn't really even comparable to what we were doing. And I don't think the client would even, all it was from, if you're walking the floor and looking, they look similar, but that was where it ended. So that was reassuring as well. But
I agree. I think when you first approach the photo booths, they look the same. I visit a lot of museums, and I'm seeing a lot of these event spaces, museums and places that what is that called? Tourist attractions. I'm seeing a lot of them bringing on their own photo booth in-house. I even had one client who owns a temporary living facility, and they throw parties. They had their own photo booth, but it didn't stop them from hiring us. What I've seen is these photo booths, they purchase them and the client thinks that it's a plug and play. And then after a while, it looks like they give up. It looks like they give up trying to battle it and troubleshoot it. So the photo booth ends up being had just dead weight that sits there and takes up space.
Kind of like buying a
I've had
treadmill. Huge ambitions that ends up being collecting dust.
Oh man, I'm looking at my treadmill right now thinking I really should get on it. But yeah, I mean, like, I've had some clients that have approached me about, I had one client that approached me about purchasing a photo booth. They already purchased their own photo booth. It ended up being too complex, so they said they don't use it at all. I think it's, they don't anticipate how much tech knowledge and how much time you dedicate into like making sure they function. Like it really is not plug and play. Even like basic iPad booths, they're not really plug and play.
Yeah, and I would hope that most companies that are going, like especially trade shows and stuff that are looking at iPad booths. We did have an apartment complex reach out to us a couple of days ago to ask if we could service their photo booth, and we asked them to send a photo, and it was some archaic thing that they probably bought from like a arcade that was shutting down 15 years ago or something. And so yeah, I don't know anything about that. So I mean, of course, we want to steer people in the right way. There is certainly an argument for discouraging them, not only because that ultimately could take business away from ourselves, but also, like you're mentioning, there's oftentimes way more involved than people realize. So, I mean, like a lot of what we say, it always comes down to education and
Yes.
letting them know really like what is involved. For example, ongoing costs, like depending on what they have, what they're doing. If they're doing trade shows, are they paying for per event? Is it a venue that's going to have monthly costs? A lot of times they just think they can buy a photo booth and it comes with software installed, and that purchase price is the last thing they'll ever spend. They don't realize that most softwares have subscriptions. Is it a wedding venue? Are they going to be needing to buy props and backdrops, do photo overlays? Do they have someone in-house to do that sort of thing? Just from the additional costs that they may not be considering right away, that may discourage some people from moving forward.
I think educating them is it's a big thing that we overlook. Like I hear a lot of people who get like very offended and upset when a client approaches them like, oh, we don't want to hire you anymore. We want to just buy into a photo booth. I feel like we need to approach it more in like an understanding mindset. Like I want to save money just like your client does, you know, but sometimes you don't understand the workings of what it takes to run a photo booth. And the clients that I've had that have asked me to buy out a photo booth, I mean, I've used it as an opportunity to educate them, and they really do open their eyes when you talk to them about, we make it look so easy. Like, you know, you and me, when we run events, Jason, like there's stuff going on in the back end the client never ever sees. You know, all they see is a photo booth that runs smooth. You know, it takes photos, it snaps a photo, prints, sharing works seamlessly. Like we make it look like we literally just set it there and we just have a person standing there. But when you have that conversation with the client about purchasing one, you do have to like address all these things. You have to adjust the things that come up. And when I've talked it over with the few clients that I've had that have approached me, it's like a light bulb. You know, I don't approach it offensively. Like I totally understand them wanting to save money, but a lot of these companies don't realize that they're going to end up spending more money and they're not going to get the results. Like you're going to have the initial purchase price. You're going to have headaches. You're going to be struggling to like find someone to run over to the like they're not thinking that someone has to be on site manning it. They're not thinking about, you know, printer going down. The easiest thing for me to communicate, like I always try to put things in perspective, like so a person can understand. So just a really good example is like people who work in the office. You know that the office printer, when I used to have a 9 to 5, that office printer, the one that sits there every day, prints all day long, and when you need it to print is when it doesn't print, you know? And you could end up spending like 2.5 hours sitting there trying to troubleshoot the thing, and it still doesn't print. You have to call out a tech.
And it's a printer that you're very familiar with. That's like in every single office.
Exactly. And you're not even factoring in like everything interconnected, like a camera connected to a computer, connected to software, connected to the printer. So when you go into detail with that, it really, your client suddenly feels what we feel, you know, what we feel when we think about like events, when we think about like, oh gosh, the camera going down, it not connecting, cables going down. They don't even know that there's all this interworkings within the photo booth, but educate them, like don't, and even if they are adamant about moving forward with buying their own photo booth, take it as an opportunity. Like you've already educated them on all the issues, and it's all facts. It's not, there's nothing that you're making up. Everything that you're sharing with them is facts. So if your client does decide to pursue that, I mean, that gives you the opportunity to be like, you know what, if you decide to move forward with this, we can help you for XX dollars, consulting, but set up like a maintenance plan or like a service plan, like so that if they have like a special needs event, they need to hire you out. It puts you in a place where they're not going to call anybody else because you set up the booth for them. You help them purchase it, so they know you're the one that knows how to run it. If they have like a big event that they need it for, that they know that they can't do in-house, so set yourself up so that they come back to you.
Yeah. So what you're doing there really is twofold. You're letting them know this is way more complex and time consuming and involved than you realized. So they have that information before going forward. But if they do go forward, you've also just established yourself as that expert that is familiar with those complexities and those issues and whatnot. So you're the easy go-to for
Yes.
being the person that has those consulting costs for setting it up. And also, certainly a label at this point. Don't ever use SnapPick or somebody's like app that they can just download. SnapPick, for example, has a great label service that you can subscribe to.
What is it, like $25 more? It's like $25 more an event. It's not even that big of an investment versus losing an entire account,
I'm not sure. I know that I'm not sure. I'd have to look. I know that you can do the white labeling so that your website and stuff is different, and maybe that's what you're talking about. But if you're going to actually use the Gray Label app, I think that is like a subscription. I don't know if you could do that per event. I may be wrong. I'd have to. Check.
They have like two. They have two. I don't think I have the Gray Label, the one that changes your
domain and where emails come from.
Yeah, I don't have that one, but you have one. There's one that just masks, so it doesn't outright say SnapPick all over the place, like SnapPick on the URL, SnapPick in the
so the app is actually different too. So there's no SnapPick on the iPad at all.
Oh, so yes.
So the app is actually called, if I'm not mistaken, called GIF Booth. So even when you're going to create events, you're not going to events.snappick anymore. So if you go to events.smashbooth.net right now, you'll see our portal, which is very similar to SnapPick, but our clients that are doing like leases and things, like we do have one client that creates their own events and they log into that and they think it's our own software and it acts just like SnapPick. They can create the exact same things, but it's at events.smashbooth instead of events.snappick, and the app on their iPad is GIF Booth. So they have no way to know that this is another app that they have access to. So definitely.
But not just the leasing side, but I'm saying like if you're running events for clients, this is beyond the leasing side, but you should be using the white label.
Oh yeah, definitely use the white label.
That's
option.
Like
the gray label is more expensive, but the white label, you're right, isn't very expensive.
Yeah, the gray label is like if you start leasing to clients. I don't really do that, so we don't have a need for the gray label. For all of our events, we white label everything. So like SnapPick's website and branding is not all over. Like they don't see the app on the back end, like what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. So that's not a big deal because we always set it up. I mean, they're not, it's not a lease. So, I mean, if you're using SnapPick, you guys really should be investing. However, I'm on the annual, but it's probably like 20. Can't imagine it being more than like $50 per event, and if that's a lot, like raise your price by $50 so you can cover that cost. Like don't make it so easy for your clients to source what you're using, because SnapPick really does make it easy. Technically running a basic event in SnapPick is super easy, but like we all know that there's more involved, like creativity, the design, the back end that's more involved that they might not be familiar with, as well as like troubleshooting.
Yeah, but outside of leasing, like I would suggest using the gray label if you're going to encourage these people to buy their own kiosk. If they want to do their own kiosk and you want to handle maintenance and stuff, I would suggest that's a good time also to get into gray label. So that way they're essentially renting the software from you instead of SnapPick, which is going to be they could get it from SnapPick for the same price. You don't get a discounted price per license from Snap unless you're doing like the the Black Friday annual pays or anything like that. But you can mark it up
That's when you should be
some,
buying
but
it.
also include like the service plans and maintenance, and you're going to go in and do all the updates for them and things like that. And that
Yeah.
has value. And also,
So
you know, when
much.
they see that monthly cost, then they again have to reevaluate and say, okay, if this is going to cost me X number $100 per month, you know, how many months will it, like, what's the cost of the photo booth? How much am I paying per event? Like, how much am I really going to save here? Because, you know, we're not going to hire a new staff member and train them to run the photo booth software and keep up
Yeah.
on the upgrades, and also we're going to be paying for a subscription. So the costs are
So
really
much more
not that big of a
involved.
saving, but a lot more involved.
It's not even about the cost, Jason. Like I don't even feel it's about the cost. It's about like the inconvenience. Like if you're hosting a party, the last thing you want to do if you are like an event planner and you're trying to like bring in a photo booth as like an add-on, the last thing on your mind is running over there and making sure the photo booth is running for your event. Like you have so many things on your plate, and with our clients it's the same thing. Like they're running like full on production teams. The last thing they want to do is sit there and like babysit a photo booth. You know, it's not even about the cost savings. It's about like the
Yeah.
headache and the lost opportunity of like data capture if it's corporate.
So I agree with you, but I think that a conversation kind of has to start at the cost, because that's the reason that they're looking at photo booths is to save money.
Yes.
So I mean, it kind of has to start there. But I agree that the bigger issue is, I mean, that's where you need to lead them to. It's just like, and it's another reason that people shouldn't be getting angry when people are doing this, because how many of us tried to create our own props when we got into
Yeah.
this industry and cut out the prop
Yeah.
makers? Like we all did. You know, and it's the exact
It
same
was
thing.
such a headache too.
We spend all this money, but at the end of the day, it wasn't the money, it wasn't the savings, it was the time and the creating. And like I was even making my own like mustaches and lips on sticks, and I was doing molded plastics, and it was
So
it,
frustrating.
it was a cool skill to learn, but it took so much time and it was so frustrating. So
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, the clients that I've seen that have their own photo booth, they really do not use them. Like it really does just become like a dead weight that's just taking up space. I've not seen a photo booth that's functioning. I saw one at Mr. Brainwash's museum. They had a functioning photo booth. It was completely digital, but when I plugged in my phone number to text the photo, I never received the photo. This was at least 6 months ago. So I don't even know if that museum was collecting data with it. It was not sending anything out. So I never got it. So it beats the point of them even having a photo booth. And these are talking points, you know, when you're going over this with your client. You can have a photo booth that's taking photos, but if you don't know anything about how to run a photo booth or a photo booth company, because if you're buying a photo booth, you're essentially having to have your own photo booth company. You might see it taking photos, but you don't know that it's not sending text messages to any of your clients. So that investment is a waste of your money, because your clients I never got the photo to post it. So nobody even knows I went to this museum. That's the point of having that photo booth. I never got the digital copy, and I didn't get a print. It didn't have prints.
I had the same experience at the Princess Diana Museum here. They had actually a mirror booth set up, and you could take a photo, and you had a virtual Princess Diana there. And I never received that. And then I also did a walkthrough at a venue for something we were being hired for, and they had a photo booth there. So, you know, of course, you can't walk past the photo booth without using it. So during this walkthrough, we all took a photo together real quick and sent it to myself. And I did get that one, but it took like, it didn't come for like 6 months or something. Like I had completely forgotten about it. I just got like a text randomly. So I don't know if they needed software updates or if it was not connected to the internet for all that time. I have no idea. But like 6 months later, I was like, oh my God, this text.
You're giving me hope that I might get this photo. I mean, the photo was not bad. It's just, I'm saying, for companies who are looking to purchase a photo booth, usually it's because it's a corporate, it's you know, like a company that's looking to brand themselves. So if your visitors are not receiving the photos, or if they're receiving it 6 months later, it beats the point of like you're losing all this opportunity cost. I mean, you're not opportunity cost. You're losing like all this opportunity of like reach and impressions on social media, because they're not getting those images, you know, and they might as well not even have a photo booth.
Right.
That's I don't know how else to say that. Like if your guests aren't getting those digital copies, and that's something us as photo booth companies and our teams and our attendants, that's like that's what we focus on when we're working events. It's not just the photos, it's not just lighting, but we make sure they get their shares as quickly as possible. I mean, we could send it within seconds, you know. There's events where we don't have internet, but we still push that queue out within 24 hours. And sometimes it takes work. Sometimes we have to go through a lot just to push those queues out, you know, and a lot of your clients aren't going to know. They're not even going to know that images are in queue. They're not even going to know where to check in the software to see that, you know.
Right.
So those are things you want to talk about with your client. Like, just educate them. I feel because what we do is it's not as easy as we make it look.
So then also creating that relationship with them, besides consulting costs of setting that up, software and maintenance contracts, you can also do like event contracts so that you're creating on the back end, you're setting those events up, you're doing the graphics, so they don't have to learn how to do all those things. And also you can upsell like event staff and things like that, because I mean that's the whole reason like BAs even exist. Companies realize that their staff are not photo booth attendants. They know that they're not the engaging people that they need to have there. So they already know that, and that's why they're getting BAs. So you can kind of cut out the whole BA process and you know, kind of upsell your staff or anything else that you're upselling now. You can kick in there as upsells and continue to create some income. So
yeah, I haven't. The ones who have shown interest in purchasing one for themselves, I haven't had any move forward. I mean, I had one that actually, like, a light bulb came on and she was like, oh my gosh, this is beyond what I imagined it to be. And she ended up just hiring us for all of her activations. Like it became, we no longer had to, like, I no longer had to do like a sales pitch for the events. It was just like, I need this photo booth this day, you know, because she learned a lot through that conversation that we had when she was, and this is a client they had never used us before. We were just referred by somebody, and, you know, me just speaking with her, showing her some of the images that we do and talking to her about like what our team members do on site. Like, it really opened her eyes where she, you know, dumped the entire idea because she realized it wasn't worth her while. You know, she really thought it was just plug, drop it and go, you know. And when she realized, like, yeah, we have 2 team members there on site at all of our events because there's things that pop up, you know. When she fully grasped that, she was like, no, I'm just going to hire you guys. So you don't have to take it, you don't have to be offended by it. Like, take it as an opportunity to have like real conversations. Like, I feel real conversations really work well with clients. Like, when I have that opportunity, it's only benefited me.
Yeah, I think the place that it's going to be hard to make that conversation work is with drop-offs, because then, I mean, you literally are just going and dropping it off, so it's hard to tell them that they can't do the same thing. They still don't see the back end and the setup and the troubleshooting and you remoting into the kiosk to fix things or whatnot, but it certainly makes the conversation a little bit less convincing to say, you know, you can't just set up and drop it off when, you know, you're literally being hired to set it up and drop it off.
There's so much more on the back end, though. You're making it sound more easy than it actually is. I mean, there's so much more on the back end. Like,
no, I'm just devil's advocate. You know, that's their argument. Like, what do you mean I can't set up and drop it off? That's literally what you're doing.
No, it's not what we're doing, because there's more involved on the back end, and there's things that pop up that you would never even think of, you know, and things that we handle that you don't think of. Like, we've had people unplug the selfie booth, even though it's a drop off. I mean, who do you think is gonna run and plug it back in? It sounds like such a basic idea, but when you're a company and you don't have staff that's assigned to manage the photo booth, if the photo booth gets unplugged during the event, who's going to run over there? I mean, that's just like the very basic of the basic, you know, like, you don't think about stuff like, you have to have a person there, you know. But on the back end, there's more involved, like the creative, the data collection, stuff like that. Like, small, I mean, I know when we program SnapPick, I wish SnapPick would change this, but, you know, we can duplicate stuff, but you still have to go in there and you have to like customize for that event. So even the little that we have to do, at least like 15 minutes. And that's just because we know what we're doing. Like, we know how we're navigating through the system. You're talking about a client that has no experience. They probably don't even know anything about like any design experience. They don't know how to program. They don't know like social media. They don't know,
Yeah.
there's more involved. Even though it's a drop off, that is what you see. But on the back end, we do a lot more,
Yeah, and technically, like once it's set up, like SnapPick is very good in the way that you can like create template events and just very quickly create that event and just change the graphics, and everything else should theoretically be ready to go. And that's how we create almost all our social events. We've got a list of template events for whatever the scenarios are. Digital roaming or iPad roaming or 360, and we just duplicate that and change the graphics out real quick, and it's ready to go. But you can also, like, we've got a lease somewhere that they use, they upsell it in their party packages, so they make money off of it as well, and they need new names each time there's a new party. So they use the
Yeah.
same template, and fortunately, SnapPick somewhat recently added the ability to change the text in app. So we just go and duplicate the event, change the text, and it literally takes us less than probably 60 seconds to create their events. It's really awesome.
I have to like program like the microsite and the URLs and stuff. It's more involved for me. Like I can't just copy, paste a lot of stuff because we don't have our own branding for stuff. But I could see that for a client. But I mean then you're talking about selling like a long-term lease.
Yeah, that's an alternative as well. Maybe they don't want to be discouraged. Maybe they still want their own booth. You can still capitalize on that with the lease. Maybe you can convince them to do that instead of making that purchase of, I don't know, however much their kiosk is that they're looking at, plus the newest iPad, plus the subscription of the software and anything else they need. Just lease that to them for a monthly cost that includes, the software, the maintenance plan, the updating of events, and all of that. And then they don't have to worry about the tech support. They don't have to worry about setting up events. If a new iPad comes out, you tell them you'll swap it out for the newest model, or handle the iPad updates, make sure that the software, because sometimes there's a software update, or an iPad update, but that crashes something on the kiosk, because the kiosk now the software now needs an update as well. So, it's hard for them to keep on those calendars and those schedules and have the like SnapPick notifications that, you don't update to this system yet or a version yet of the iPad software until we create fixes for it, so there's a lot more that you can offer that they can't provide through a lease. So if you're
they just want to hear you. They just want to hear you making their life easier. That's like what you're selling at that point.
Yeah, and then you can even say, after a year or 6 months, however long the lease contract is, I'll give you the option. If you still think it's better to buy a kiosk, I'll give you a buyout option at the end, and then you can just buy this kiosk that'll be 6 months or a year old. I'll give you, I don't know, a 10% discount or whatever you work out. And then you're lowering that level of resistance because you're taking one of their options. You're not taking one of their options away. If they want to sell and you're telling them to do a lease, you're kind of telling them that they don't have the option to do what they want to do. But now you're telling them that, you're adding a safety net to their option. You can still buy it if you want, but why don't you try it out first? Let's commit to
less risk
a
for
year
them.
and lowering the risk. So discourage, encourage, alternate options, lots of stuff. Don't get mad, make money.
Yeah, build that relationship, because when they get tired of running their own photo booth, even if they end up buying one, when the day comes that they do get tired, and they will get tired of running and maintaining their own photo booth, I mean, they have you on their, in their phone book. They have you to reach out to take over. Because most of these companies that do purchase their own, it doesn't last long. I mean, on the leasing side, I see those. I've heard a lot of companies that have like long-term leases, and I see why that works, because you basically have someone who's like holding your hand, like if you need support on the back end that you're not familiar with, you reach out to whoever you're leasing to, and that photo boother will help support you. So those clients will hold on to their leases a lot longer. But companies that just purchase photo booths outright, I've not seen those running for very long. They're usually just sitting there. So, take that opportunity, build that relationships. Sometimes it could be a year, could be 2 years, but eventually they're going to give up and they're going to just want to hire it out again.
Yeah, and we could do a separate episode on leasing, but essentially I'd love to talk to someone that is very successful with leases, because we do them, but they're just not that successful. They don't bring in very much money. You always do have the pool of like we've got one that we've had placed for 3 years, and at the end of each year they're
Oh,
like,
wow.
what does it cost again to buy it again? We send them the cost to buy it out and what the ongoing support would be, and then every year they're just like, okay, let's just do another year and we'll decide next year.
Yeah.
Let's do that again.
Yeah, I haven't approached leases, so I'm not familiar with it, but I do know a few in the industry that do like long-term leases.
We keep trying to find different ways to make it work better, because what we're doing now just doesn't really, unless you have like an abundance of kiosks, there's just not a whole lot of money in it for us, so it doesn't really make sense to, 'cause if we're leasing something for like $700 a month, which is where we're at, like we're taking
Make more
some of
in
our
one
inventory
event,
out that would be a
Yeah.
$3,500 one-day event that's gone for $700 for a full month. So
Yeah.
it's tough. It's tough. You
Yeah,
want to build up that
I've never
base of
approached it.
like, yeah. I don't know if I would recommend someone to approach it, but it always comes up. Everyone's always wondering about it, so we should probably attack it. And maybe I'm grossly undercharging, but I mean, we started trying to charge $1,500, and no one would even like. Then it becomes very, very easy to just commit the money to buy. You're going to rent for $1,500 a month, just pay $5,000 for a booth and software, and pay $150 a month for a software license or whatnot. So that's where we found people would be interested, is about $700 a month, and it just seems to be more pain than it's worth sometimes. Well, most times.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool to have like that solid income for that time frame, but yeah, I can't imagine like having inventory knocked out completely.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I have a hard time selling gear, because I know I can make more booking at one time than selling it completely.
Even if you had to like do a discount, like you're still the amount you're selling it for.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a growing, I think it's a growing trend. Like I'm hearing and seeing it more frequently in the past, like, dang, Jason, I feel like in the past like 3 years, I've seen a rise in like people coming at me and, asking like, showing interest in purchasing their own. And we
Well, it makes
haven't
sense.
closed any. Yeah.
Before that, I mean, when did the iPad booth start coming around? Like 2017, something like that, 2018. But it still wasn't very prevalent. Like it still had its issues and really poor photo quality, and it couldn't print and all these issues. And I can see that like a DSLR photo booth is way more intimidating, even if you're a venue. But if you're a trade show and you're like want to go from city to city, that's just way too intimidating. But then here comes the iPad photo booth, especially things with like the Pearl. There's essentially no setup. You put the base on and stand it up, and it's ready to go. People see that, and they're just like, we could fit that in our trailer. That we could ship that thing.
Yeah.
So the iPad, I think, is why we're seeing more and more people do that, because it's streamlined things so to make them so much more modern and sleek and great to look at and easy to set up. And there's just a lot of valid reasons for companies to want to invest in their own kiosk. So certainly can't blame them.
Of course. Yeah. I just feel like a lot of boothers are very upset at the news, and I should just like reframe how you're approaching it, because you can really benefit from these clients that are reaching out and asking you about this kind of stuff. Like, I mean, we want a client for multiple events. We've never worked with them before, but just having that conversation really opened up opportunity for us. We didn't end up selling a photo booth or leasing. We ended up just booking multiple events with them.
Yeah, and that's the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Don't get angry. Yeah. Like, just listen. Have the conversation. Like you mentioned, offer a solution. Hear what their issues are and offer a solution.
Yeah, that's really like what we're here for. Like, for those clients that buying their own is the better financial investment. There's you talking them out of it is not going to change. That they see benefit in it, if that is the case. Like, I could see like small venues who want to buy their own photo booth. I know there's a bunch that do, and they add it onto their package that might work for them. If they're doing like a basic iPad booth, if they never change the overlays, they don't add any branding, they don't really need any customization, like a venue that just books it as like a freebie, I could see that benefiting them. But like big brands, it's not going to benefit them.
Yeah, it's not
like
going to work.
It's missed opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can hear their pain points instead of just hearing that they want their own booth, get to the core of it, understand why, and then offer the solution of it's not a good idea. The things that you think it's going to do is not going to do, or you're right. You're not in a good position to keep paying people to do your photo booths. What you need is very simple, and it makes a lot of sense for you to just buy a booth.
Yes.
But I can help you through that. I can help set it up, and I can guide you to it. Like I've looked at hundreds of booths before, or some of the things that you're looking for, like it makes sense, but you still need to have a lot of different events, and unless you have a graphic designer on your team, unless you have a graphic designer on your team and tech support, maybe you should consider a lease. That may be a better solution for what you're trying to achieve. So
or even if for their case use, maybe them investing in purchasing one is a better solution for them, but they're still going to have those one-offs where that's just not going to cut it. Build that into your consultation. Like we'll put together the best of a selfie booth for you guys. This is what we charge for the consultation. We'll program it, we'll set it up, we'll train you through it. Charge for that time, charge for your knowledge. Like we acquire a lot of information through the years, where we educate ourselves with like different software, with different booths, different workflows. So you have that advantage and you can charge your client for that. Like don't just put something together for free. Like it's charge for your time, and then give yourself the opportunity, like, hey, when you guys have like this special event where, maybe an iPad selfie booth is just not going to cut it. This is the rate we'll have if you need that one-off event, maybe once a month, once a year,
Yeah.
Well, hire us out and build that into your package so they don't even think to call anybody else. They just think to call you.
Yeah, because they'll still need the occasional 360 or, things like video effects. Obviously, even if they are setting up their own events, like video effects is pretty in depth, and I can't see them doing that.
Can't do that either.
So
I can't even do that.
But you know who to call.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think that wraps it up. Do you have anything?
No, I think this is one of those cases where, like, when you have clients that might not be a good fit for you, maybe today, don't approach it negatively. Like that's something that I've approached for my business. Like I've had people that have reached out and they have a budget of like $200 for a photo booth. That's insane. There's no way we could do that. But like how you approach your clients, how you approach people who are reaching out to you can make a difference, because today they might be looking for a $200 photo booth. You're not the photo booth for them today. But like in 2 years, maybe they have a big event with their company. They're going to think of you, so build those relationships. This is one of those cases where, how you approach it could, you might lose this photo booth event because they want to buy it themselves. That doesn't mean that you don't have opportunity later with them. I try to approach a lot of our prospects that way. Don't take offense. Don't be mad about it. Just educate them, help them find a solution. Maybe you are the solution, maybe you aren't, but they're still going to think about you later, when they have a different need.
I'm starting to see a theme of all our shows: education, relationships, and solutions.
Yeah.
But that's really what it comes down to. And gaff tape.
Yeah. Gaff tape. That's a touchy one for me.
So, all right. Well, thanks for joining. If we missed anything, let us know. Shoot us a message, and love to have a follow-up.
Thanks, everybody.
To keep the conversation going, join our Facebook group, Pro Booth Talk Community. If you enjoyed this podcast, consider showing your support by subscribing, liking, reviewing, or sharing this topic with someone in the industry.